Hello, 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 and namaste, my witchlings. How's everybody doing? Oh, hair. Gotta put that back on. Since my hair is absolutely wild and crazy right now. How's everybody doing? It's been so long since we last saw each other. I joke. We just finished daily draw and soak care. Took care of the puppers, walked them. They have not had food yet, but otherwise, all is well. All right. Ha ha. Ah! Earbud took a nosedive. Kamikaze tech, I swear. Sweet boy. Come here, you. Come here. I keep bumping into the poor puppy boy every time I move, because for some reason, he has decided that lying right behind the wheel of Mom's chair is where he wants to be today. There he goes into his bed. Yay. I'm so worried that I'm going to hurt the little monster. Emphasis on monster today. Let me defuzz just a smidge, if this will work. There we go. A little better. Tolerable, at least. All right. Hello, everybody. Namaste, my witchlings, and welcome one and all to the Yoga Witch's Cauldron. All right, so go. All right, let's come on in, get settled down, and let's get going, shall we? All right. Come on in, get settled into your space, your mat, your altar, your absolute comfiest nook, and let the edges of the world soften for just a moment. You carved out this time for this gathering, this ritual of community and curiosity, and that alone is worth honoring. As November wraps us in its shawl of gratitude and reflection, we step into one of the most liminal stretches of the year, that twilight season where everything feels a little closer to the bone. The nights grow long, the air sharpens with that witchy little bite, and the veil between what was and what is stops pretending to be a solid wall. It thins, it stirs, and sometimes it whispers. This is the season when memories feel louder, when old stories rise without warning, and when even the wind seems to carry echoes of the ones who walked before us. A time when yoga's concept of smriti, remembrance, meets witchcraft's devotion to the ancestors, like two old friends sharing tea. Dogs, man. Tonight, we're stepping into a practice older than temples, older than tarot, older than every system humans built to understand the unseen, honoring our ancestors. Now, before you go picturing an elaborate altar overflowing with candles and offerings, breathe. Ancestor work is not about theatrics or even perfection. Goddess, is it not about perfection? It isn't reserved for mystics or witches or yogis or people with neat, traceable family trees. It's simpler. quieter, more human. Honoring our ancestors is remembering, reconnecting, reclaiming the roots, be they physical, spiritual, or emotional, that shaped the soil we are growing from. Now, when I say ancestors, I am not talking about the perfect family tree version. I am talking about the entire constellation of people through blood, adoption, choice, culture, mentorship, influence, and sheer cosmic coincidence, whose decisions, triumphs, wounds, and survival eventually led to you. Even the ones you never met, even the ones whose stories were never told, even the ones you have complicated feelings about. Goddess knows I've got a few of those in my lineage. You don't need a perfect lineage for this to work. You don't need healed relationships or warm nostalgia. You don't need a box of photographs or even a well-preserved family narrative. Ancestor work is not about pretending your lineage was flawless. It's full of humans. It's not going to be flawless. It's about acknowledging that you exist because people lived imperfectly, beautifully, painfully before you. And here's my favorite part, my absolute favorite part. Honoring the past isn't just about looking backwards. It's also about svadhyaya, self-study, looking inward at who we are in this moment and forward toward the legacy we're creating with every choice we make. Because you and me, you and I, we are future ancestors, living ancestors in progress. One day, someone will look back at us for clues, guidance, inspiration, or even identity. So tonight, we're not doing a ritual. We're not meditating or calling quarters or rolling out our mats for flow. We're not doing any of that. We are simply sharing a conversation, a heart-forward, witchy, yoga-infused reflection on what it means to acknowledge the people whose footsteps became our path and how that acknowledgement shapes who we become from here. We're going to explore the different kinds of ancestors, blood, spiritual, heart ancestors, and the collective ancestors whose names were never written down, but whose influence is everywhere. We'll talk about remembrance, generational alchemy, and the grounding that comes from recognizing that you are part of a lineage far older and wider than your individual story. This episode is about belonging, about identity, about connection in a world that is so often pressuring us to feel alone. And ultimately, it's about healing, personal and ancestral, rippling backwards and forwards like a blessing across time. So, if you're ready, witchlings, grab your tea, grab your blanket, your journal, your familiar, or that coziest corner of your couch. Whatever makes this moment feel sacred. And let's get started, shall we? Because tonight, we're not just talking about the past. We are honoring the lineage of the present and stirring the cauldron of the future. All right, let's start tonight by grounding ourselves in something absolutely simple. Witchlings, who exactly are we talking about when we talk about ancestors? Because depending on your lived experience, your history, your culture, your spiritual path, family dynamics, your joys, and your scars, that one single word can stir up an entire cauldron of emotions. Pride, grief, curiosity, confusion, longing, and even resistance. And you know what? all of that is valid. Most people hear ancestor and immediately think DNA. I mean, come on, ancestry DNA. Hi. The folks whose genetic threads shaped your eyes, your jawline, your laugh, maybe even your temper. But ancestry is so much more than biology. So much deeper. So much more soul-rooted and spirit-woven. Ancestor work is not a single-lane road. It's a crossroads. Very yoga, very witchy, and very, very human. So let's explore the different kinds of ancestors who walk behind us, beside us, and occasionally even ahead of us. We start with blood ancestors. These are the people most think of first. The ones whose stories are tangled up in your family tree. Your parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, and the vast ocean of ancestors whose names were never written down, but whose lives still ripple through yours in ways you will never fully know. These ancestors weathered storms, literal and metaphorical. Some crossed oceans willingly, others were forced. Some migrated for hope, others fled danger. They survived wars, famines, colonization, pandemics, persecution, political chaos, and the daily grind of trying to keep their families alive and safe. Some were joyful, some were wounded or harmful. Some lived quietly and shaped everything. Some shaped your lineage intentionally, others shaped it by accident. And honoring blood ancestors does not mean glorifying them or pretending they were saints. No lineage is spotless. I'm going to say that again, louder for the people in the back. No lineage is spotless. No family is simple. Ancestor work is not loyalty to perpetrators. It is acknowledgement of impact, of origin, of story. Blood ancestry carries resilience, strengths, instincts, talents, quirks, and sometimes wounds we're here to transform. But it also carries gifts, even when the names are long lost to history. Next, we have ancestors of the heart. This one right here is where the yoga witchy music starts kind of humming for us. Ancestors of the heart are the ones who shaped you not by blood, but by impact. Our chosen family, our spiritual siblings, those friends who stayed with you through the darkness, the mentor who nudged you, none so gently, towards your purpose, the teacher whose one sentence rerouted your entire life. Some of those people are still alive, and some have crossed the veil. Some knew they changed you, some had no clue. But their presence carved something into your being. They carved something into your becoming. These are those soul-level connections. The ones that remind us that family isn't only genetic, it is energetic. It's relational, it's chosen. Then we have spiritual ancestors. These are the lineage holders, the teachers, the guides, and wisdom keepers whose influence flows through your practice. Your yoga lineage might exist because Krishnamacharya revived the teachings, or because Sita Devi Yogendra broke barriers by becoming the first woman to formally study under him. Your witchcraft lineage, it might trace through Scott Cunningham's gentle accessibility, Doreen Valiente's poetry, or Uncle Bucky's whatever he did. Maybe even the countless unnamed midwives who kept the craft alive in secret for centuries. Spiritual ancestors can also be Buddhist teachers like Thich Nhat Hanh, mystics, astrologers, rabbis, poets, philosophers, anyone whose wisdom expanded your consciousness or softened your heart. They weren't perfect. None of them were. Trust me. But their teachings shaped the path you walk today. Their influence lives in your rituals, your choices, and your worldview. And sometimes, Witchling, a spiritual ancestor finds you long before you know you're looking for them. We have collective ancestors. These are the ancestors of all humanity, the ones whose lives, inventions, traditions, rituals, and survival shape the world you inhabit. The indigenous peoples whose stewardship nurtured the land beneath your feet. Excuse me. The ancient cultures whose art and practices echo through time. The early humans who survived fire, famine, drought, migrations, ice ages, plagues long enough for our species to continue. Every single breath you take is made possible by millions of years of human endurance. Collective ancestors remind us that our roots don't just go down. They stretch outward across cultures, across eras, across the vast web of humanity. And then there's you, the living ancestor. This is the part people forget, the part yoga philosophies whisper about constantly. One day, you will be an ancestor. You might shape a bloodline, or a spiritual lineage, or a creative one, or a community one. Your healing becomes the medicine someone else inherits. Your courage becomes someone else's permission. Your boundaries become someone else's safety. Your joy becomes someone else's reminder that joy is even possible. You are already influencing the lineage that will follow through presence, action, love, and the magic you bring into the world. Honoring ancestors means recognizing that you stand in the middle of the lineage, not at the end. You are the bridge between what was and what will be. So, when we talk about ancestors, blood, heart, spiritual, collective, what we are really talking about is this truth. You are not walking this world alone. You are woven from countless stories, shaped by countless hands, influenced by countless lives. You carry echoes of people you've never met and wisdom you've never consciously learned. Your lineage is messy, magical, imperfect, resilient, and yours. And honoring your ancestors is simply acknowledging that truth. Nothing more, nothing less. So, why do we do this, Witchlings? Why does ancestral reverence show up everywhere? In witchcraft, yoga lineages, indigenous traditions, ancient philosophies, folk practices, and in cultures that never crossed paths across geography or time. Why? Why does honoring the ones who came before us tug at something deep, primal, and wordless in the human spirit? Tonight, I want to break down this dogma. Tonight, I want to break this down, not as dogma, but as the 5 yoga, witchy, soul-rooted reasons this practice has mattered for thousands of years. Each one is powerful on its own. Together, seriously transformative. All right. First, we have gratitude for life itself. Let's start with the most fundamental truth. You exist because someone before you survived long enough to make it possible. And when you really sit with that, it hits differently. Your ancestors endured wars, famine, colonials. Let's try this sentence again. Your ancestors endured wars, famine, colonization, pandemics, persecution, forced displacement, systemic injustice, and hardships that we can barely imagine. I mean, come on, first world problems. I'm tripping over my tongue and need to talk into the microphone. Oh my gosh. They survived childbirth without medicine. I have all the respect in the world for those women. They survived childbirth without medication, winters without heat, grief without therapy, and losses without support. They chose, stumbled, fought, loved, endured, and somehow, impossibly, the line continued. Millions of lives, thousands of years converged to create you, or me. Honoring ancestors is simply acknowledging that miracle. Excuse me, not saying they were perfect. Oh, dear gods, no. We are not excusing their harm. We are just saying, thank you for surviving long enough for me to be here. In yoga, this is pranadhana, devotion to what is. In witchcraft, gratitude is spell work. In ancestor work, gratitude is the doorway to healing. And sometimes, that's enough. Now let's talk about the mystical but practical parts, accessing our inner resources. Ancestor work helps us tap into inherited soul resources, traits passed through experience, memory, culture, resilience, and energetic imprint. You might carry a great-grandmother's determination, a grandfather's quiet resilience, an ancestor's intuition, creativity, humor, or fire, a healer's instinct, a storyteller's gift, a warrior's courage, a lineage of women who survived the fucking impossible, a lineage of men who held their families together with grit and hope. Baling wire and duct tape? You may even carry their unfinished dreams, the ones that stopped by poverty, gender roles, racism, colonization, war, or simple lack of opportunity. Honoring ancestors turns on a light switch inside you, activating strengths you didn't know you had or weren't told you were allowed to express. In yoga, this is samskara, deep imprints in the psyche. In witchcraft, this is ancestral magic, the power that lives in your bones. Not Hollywood magic. We are not the charmed witches. Human magic. We are healing generational patterns. Let's be honest. Let's be brutally fucking honest here. Not every ancestor was kind. Not every tradition was healthy. Not every pattern deserves to be carried forward. Many, many, many of us come from lineage marked by trauma, grief, addiction, mental illness, violence, silence, shame, oppression, secrets, or even cultural erasure. And even if we don't know the stories, we often feel the echoes. Patterns we didn't choose, fears that don't match our experiences, emotional triggers that we cannot explain. That's generational imprint. Vasana in yoga, lineage shadow in witchcraft. Honoring ancestors isn't about glossing over the harm or sending love and light to abuse. It's about saying, I see where this came from, I understand how it rippled through us, and it ends with me. That is ancestral alchemy, sacred, courageous work. When you heal yourself, witchling, you heal those behind you and those who will one day follow. You become the place where the lineage changes direction. Next, we work on rootedness and belonging. We live in a world that glorifies overstimulation and isolation. Everyone is overwhelmed and unmoored. Ancestor work cuts through that noise. It roots you. It grounds you. It brings you back into the long story of humanity. You are not just a 21st century human juggling coffee, emails, and a to-do list that never ends. You are the newest expression of a lineage that stretches back millennia. Belonging doesn't require a perfect family tree, my loves. It doesn't require good memories. It doesn't even require connecting to your living relatives. It requires one truth. Your existence didn't begin with you. You are a continuation, a chapter, a thread, a living part of a tapestry woven over generations. In yoga, this is sthira, rooted stability. In witchcraft, this is grounding into lineage as much as earth. In ancestor work, this is remembering you are not and never have been alone. And here's the piece that almost everybody forgets. Consciously creating your legacy. Ancestor work isn't only about the past. It's about the future you are shaping. You become the bridge between those who lived before and those who will come after through blood, mentorship, community, or spirit. Your healing becomes their inheritance. Your courage becomes their permission slip. Your boundaries become their safety. Your joy becomes their starting point. Your self-love becomes their foundation. Ancestor work invites you to claim your role as a future ancestor, fully aware that the life you're living now is the soil future generations will grow from. In yoga, this is dharma, living your purpose in a way that uplifts the world. In witchcraft, this is legacy magic, shaping the future through intention and healing. Are we picking up a theme here? Healing is a theme here. So, when we ask, why does this practice matter? The answer is not just one thing. It is all of this. It's gratitude. It's empowerment. It's healing. It's belonging. It's legacy. Ancestor work roots us, strengthens us, and elevates us all at once. It reminds us who we come from, who we are, and who we are becoming. And that, my witchlings, is why this practice is timeless and why it's needed more than ever in the world we live in now. All right. Hey, look, we're about halfway through. Doing pretty good. All right, my witchlings. Now that we've explored who our ancestors are and why this work matters, let's get into the practical, grounded, everyday magic of ancestor reverence. Because here's the truth. Ancestor work does not need to be theatrical, complicated, or ceremonial, unless you want it to be. You don't need a cauldron big enough to double as a bathtub. Gods, that would be nice, though. Anyway, you don't need a cauldron big enough to double as a bathtub, a wall-sized genealogy chart, or a 30-step ritual scheduled for the next solar eclipse. The real magic, the deepest, oldest, most universal magic, lives in the small, intentional acts that you weave into your daily life. That's the yoga witchy sweet spot. Mindfulness meets meaning, and presence becomes spell work. So let's explore the many, many ways that you can honor your ancestors without pressure, perfectionism, or spiritual gatekeeping. Because there is no correct path here, only the one that feels true to you. Let's begin with the classic, the ancestor altar. I kind of have one right here in front of me. Don't picture a dramatic Hollywood shrine or a shadow-filled Victorian mantle. No. A sacred space the size of a journal. Where's my journal? Oh, sure. Sacred space the size of a book can shift the energy of an entire room. Now, on this teeny tiny altar, you might place a photo of an ancestor. Doesn't matter what ancestor. Could be Bob Ross for all we care. We'll get there. A candle, either a tea light, a votive, a spell candle, whatever you have. Excuse me. A glass of water, the oldest offering known to humankind. A sprig of rosemary, mugwort, lavender, or any herb tied to memory. A stone from their homeland or a place they loved. A small heirloom or trinket behind me. Or simply something that reminds you of them. This altar becomes a doorway, a landing place for gratitude, a seat pulled out at your table, and a reminder that your lineage is welcome and remembered. In yoga, this is shraddha, devotion and steady trust. In witchcraft, it's the hearth of the magic. In ancestor work, it's not summoning spirits, it's offering presence. Oh, my altar, my ancestor altar currently has one ancestor and future generation. And I have all sorts of things for them. As I said, behind me, I don't know if you can see the medallion hanging from the love sign, but that is something that was near and dear to my grandmother. Anyway, moving on. Speak their names. Names are spell work. They carry vibration, memory, identity, and energy. Speaking an ancestor's name, be it softly or loudly, is one of the simplest and most potent offerings you can make. You might name a grandparent, a sibling, or a friend who has passed, a mentor who shaped your path, a writer, teacher, yogi, healer, or witch who influenced your life. And if you don't know their names, if there are gaps because of adoption, estrangement, secrecy, assimilation, or erasure, you can still speak the invocation that works across every lineage on Earth. My ancestors, known and unknown. That phrase is pure magic. It says, I remember that you existed even if I never knew who you were. In yoga, this resonates with nada, the power of sacred sound. In witchcraft, it's invocation. In ancestor practice, it is acknowledgement. Tell their stories. Story is one of humanity's oldest spells, long before books, long before written word. Stories kept the ancestors alive, told around fires, whispered over soup pots, shared in rituals, and passed down in fragments. And storytelling doesn't require perfection or reverence. Some of the most meaningful stories are the messy ones. So tell the sweet stories about, one of the most loving things they did for you. The funny stories about the sublime and the ridiculous birthday presents for your 16th birthday. The eye roll stories when mom embarrassed you yet again. The complicated truths and the little fragments. The questions you still wish you could ask. Every time you speak a story, you breathe life into a lineage that might otherwise fall silent. And if you don't know their stories, write new ones. You become the ancestor someone else will one day speak of with gratitude. In yoga, this is smriti, memory as a living thread. In witchcraft, It's oral tradition. In ancestor work, it is remembrance in motion. Here's one that many of us may enjoy. Engage with their culture. One of the most grounding and emotional ways to honor your ancestors is to reconnect with the cultures that shaped them. Culture is ancestral memory made physical. So, some ideas. You might cook foods that your ancestors cooked. Learn a phrase of their language or more. Listen to their traditional music. Wear colors, patterns, or symbols tied to your roots, such as if you are Scottish, wear your family's tartan. Celebrate a holiday they would have known. Light a candle on a meaningful date. My grandparents' birthdays or anniversary is one of my favorites. Look at maps or photos of ancestral homelands. Research traditions that you never learned firsthand. And this is important here. This one's important. You do not need a perfect pedigree to engage respectfully with your own ancestry. You don't need paperwork, proof, or permission. You just need curiosity, humility, care, and respect. In yoga, this is called parampara, lineage passed through time. In witchcraft, it's heritage magic. In ancestor work, it's remembering where your roots first broke through the earth. Another idea, journaling and letters. This is one of my favorites to do. Your journal is more than paper. It is a moving altar, a portal between generations. Write to your ancestors as you would write in your spiritual practice. Write gratitude, ask questions, give confessions, tell them your hopes, your memories, your regrets. Update them on what you're doing in your life. Tell them your longings. What do you desire more than anything? You may never receive a literal answer. The magic, though, is in the offering. In yoga, yet again, this is svadhyaya, self-study. In witchcraft, writing is ink and paper, spell work. In ancestor work, journaling becomes communication across time. If you don't know who you're writing to, write to the lineage itself, the ones who survived long enough for you to be here. Another option is daily remembrance. This is the subtlest magic, the everyday magic, the magic our ancestors lived with. Daily remembrance can be a simple whispered thank you while making your cup of coffee in the morning. Saying their name as part of your morning routine. Noticing their features in your reflection. Feeling their presence in your yoga practice. Leaving a tiny offering. Cooking a dish that they loved, wearing a piece of jewelry tied to them, carrying a stone or a talisman. These small moments create continuity, that thread that keeps the connection alive. And, all right, gonna take a sip because I just tried to inhale saliva. These small moments create continuity, that thread that keeps the connection alive. In yoga, this is abhyasa, steady devotion. In witchcraft, daily ritual. In ancestor work, it's how we keep the channel open. And that, my witchlings, is the heart of ancestor work. It is not perfection, it is not performance, it is not ceremony for ceremony's sake. It's connection. No, I did not. It is connection, one mindful act at a time. The sincerity matters more than the scale, because every small gesture strengthens the bridge between those who came before you, the person you are now, and the ancestor you are becoming for someone else. Alright, now that I have seen the picture, the icons, those are absolutely adorable. Alright, moving on. Now I get to tell you my ancestral story. When I talk about honoring our ancestors, Witchlings, I'm not speaking from theory, I am speaking from my bones. My lineage is a woven tapestry of service, survival, compassion, magic, movement, and that kind of quiet courage that holds a family together through generations. Let me start with the part of my lineage that always comes to the surface this time of year. It surfaces. My family. Sorry, you'll understand why I'm laughing in a minute. Let me start with the part of my lineage that always surfaces this time of year. My family's military roots. Both my maternal grandparents, grandmother and grandfather, served in the United States Navy during World War II. My grandfather was a submarine line officer who lived in those deep, shadowed places where silence could mean survival and a single tiny mistake could mean tragedy. Now do you get why I'm laughing at the fact that this surfaces this time of year? He served under Captain Dudley Mush Morton alongside my grandfather's best friend, Admiral Richard O'Kane, on the USS Wahoo, a submarine that would eventually be lost at sea. The Wahoo is still out there, forever on patrol. My grandmother, on the other hand, Grandma was a wave and a yeoman second class. She worked shoreside at, the name of the command just escapes me, with such skill that she typically knew my grandfather's boat's movements before grandfather did, because, well, it was her boat to work with. Paris Island, that's where she was. They were what I so lovingly refer to as old school Antifa. People who believed fiercely in equality, dignity, justice, compassion, and service. They didn't just wear uniforms, they wore their values. And that thread didn't end with them. My father also served in the Navy. Two of my older brothers served in the Navy. My own military service is woven into that same line. A family of people who believed deeply in showing up when it mattered. So on a week like this, when Veterans Day is either honored or regarded with seriously complex emotions, I hold space for all of it. The pride, the grief, the gratitude, and also the understanding that not everyone feels celebratory. And that is okay too. I have my own complicated feelings about my service and my family's service. Ancestry is complicated. Service is complicated. Legacy, complicated, but the thread still matters. Now, let's shift this lens to another branch of my lineage, the one tied to old stories and old names. On the Barrington side, which comes from my mother's mother, my ancestors carried titles and responsibilities once wrapped in nobility. I mean, Barrington Hall is a thing. Their history reminds me that leadership is not about being placed above others. It's about being accountable for the well-being of the community around you. That sense of sovereignty, the kind grounded in compassion, not ego, still feels alive in me. And then on my daddy's side comes the thread of the Scottish Cunningham clan. So when I stumbled across Scott Cunningham in my early witchcraft studies, it felt like coming home to someone I had known forever. His books were my first lanterns on this path, soft, approachable, and full of wonder. They still, to this day, sit in very special place on my shelves, honored and loved. Maybe he's a distant cousin, maybe he's just a chosen ancestor. More than likely, he's both. Either way, he is part of my magical family. And then there are the collective ancestors. The ones who don't belong to one person, but everyone. If we're going to talk about a universal ancestor of kindness, I hid it from myself. How can we not talk about Mr. Rogers? Oh, excuse me. This man taught generations of us how to feel safely, how to be gentle without being weak, how to hold space for others with an open heart. He was a healer in a hand-knit cardigan, a spiritual ancestor of compassion. And his voice still echoes through so many of our emotional landscapes. Bob Ross taught us that perfection is overrated. Little mistakes, right? Steve Irwin taught us boundless curiosity. These are all collective ancestors. And we have another across oceans and traditions. Another woman stands tall in my lineage of practice, Sita Devi Yogendra, the very first female yogi to ever study under Krishnamacharya, the father of modern yoga. She stepped into a role she wasn't supposed to hold and changed the entire course of yoga for every woman who came after. Without her courage, I might not be here living this path, teaching this practice, or even sharing any of this magic with you guys. Her bravery lives in every inhale I guide, every mantra I whisper, and every single flow I create. And finally, the branch that has become part of my heart home through marriage, my husband's ancestors. His native lineage shaped by survival, resilience, and stories that were nearly erased but continue to rise. His Filipino ancestry, rich in tradition, family, fierce love, fierce humor, and fierce loyalty. Through him, I honor those lineages as well. I honor what they endured, what they preserved, what they passed down. Marriage weaves you into another family tree, and I am so incredibly grateful for the roots I have been welcomed into. And truthfully, my witchlings, there are so many more. Ancestors I know, ancestors I've never met, ancestors whose names have been lost, ancestors whose names were taken, ancestors who lived quietly, and ancestors who roared like thunder. All of them walk with me. And in the spirit of honoring the old ways and acknowledging the Irish and Scottish threads in mine and my husband's blood, let me offer this traditional blessing to close this particular segment. After I take a sip. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face and the rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may the ancestors hold you gently in the hollow of their hands. We're getting through this. So I'm doing pretty good today. How are you guys doing? All right, my witchlings. We have wandered through the who, the why, and the how of ancestral work. We've talked about lineages of blood, lineages of heart and of spirit, and of humanity. We've explored how this practice shapes our healing, our sense of belonging, our identity, and the legacy we are shaping with every breath. So now, let's talk about you and what you're being invited to do this week. Don't worry, this isn't a quest that requires a metaphysical shopping spree, a 3-hour ritual, or an altar renovation. This isn't about performance or aesthetics or impressing anyone, living or dead. It's not about doing it right. This is about connection. Real, honest connection. The kind that sits at the heart of your yoga witchy practice, whether that practice is ritual heavy, meditation formed, or simply human. Oh, excuse me, that was not supposed to be that loud. Sorry, that was bad. Dr. Pepper talks back. Your invitation this week is simple but powerful. Acknowledge your ancestors. That's it. Acknowledge them in whatever way feels right, safe, and authentic for you. For some of you, this will feel natural. Maybe you already talked to your ancestors, keep their photos on your altar, light candles, whisper their names, or ask for guidance. Ancestor reverence may already be woven into your path. But for others, this might feel brand new or even complicated. Maybe your family tree is missing a few branches. Maybe the branches are there, but the roots are tangled in silence. Maybe you don't feel connected to the people who raised you. Maybe your lineage includes trauma, addiction, abandonment, cruelty, secrets, and grief. If that's you, hear me clearly. You can still practice. You can still honor. You can still acknowledge. Ancestral work is not about pretending your lineage is perfect or was perfect. It's about recognizing the truth of it, all of it, and choosing how that truth flows through you now. So what does acknowledge your ancestors actually look like? It ain't one size fits all, and it ain't never been. Some of you may light a single candle, a tiny little flame, a quiet beacon in the dark. Humans have used fire to honor the dead since before written history. One candle can hold 1,000 stories. Some of you may prefer a whispered thank you. Unspectacular, unscripted, enough. Maybe in the kitchen while you stir your coffee, or maybe in the car. Maybe while walking the dog or stepping out into the cold morning air. Some of us may focus on one specific person, a grandparent whose laugh lingers, a mentor who shaped your path, a teacher whose influence lives in you, a friend who left too soon. Memory itself is offering. When you remember someone, you keep something of them alive. And some of you may simply pause. Not in meditation, not in ritual, just pause. A moment to acknowledge that you are part of a lineage far bigger than your personal story. A moment to recognize that your existence is not an isolated accident, but part of a long, unbroken thread. That, witchlings, is ancestor work too. Can you go bigger? Abso-fucking-lutely. You can cook a family recipe, research your lineage, ask a relative for stories before they're gone. Write about what you wish you knew and what you do know. Learn a word in an ancestral language, or maybe learn more. Play music tied to your roots. Visit a grave or restore an old photo. But you don't have to. One candle, one whispered thank you, one memory, one moment. That is enough. And here's something important. Ancestor work isn't just about the ancestors you knew. Sometimes it's about the ancestors you wish you had. Sometimes it's about imagining the lineage you needed when the real one hurt you. Sometimes it's about claiming chosen ancestors, writers, witches, yogis, musicians, activists, healers, whose work shaped you more than your blood ever did. If your bloodline wasn't safe, you are still allowed to have ancestors. If your family tree has holes, you're still allowed to have ancestors. If you're adopted, estranged, disconnected, or healing from generational trauma, you are still allowed to have ancestors. Ancestors are not limited by DNA. That doorway is bigger than blood. And maybe, just maybe, your acknowledgement this week is for the ancestors who harmed you or harmed your family. Not in forgiveness if you're not ready, but in recognition. I see what happened, I see the wound, and I am choosing differently. That counts deeply. I'm being told just don't listen to the dead people's peer pressure. This challenge, my loves, is simply about making room for whatever kind of acknowledgement feels safe and true for you. No expectations, no pressure, no spiritual checklist, no gatekeeping. Just connection. Just intention. Just one moment where you turn, however gently, toward the past that shaped your present. Let it be sincere. Let it be small, if small is what you have. Let it be soft, if softness is what you can offer. Let it be yours. Because once you begin acknowledging your ancestors, even in the simplest ways, something shifts. You start to feel the threads that were always there. You start to sense the quiet support woven through your life. You begin to understand that you are held by more than your own story. And that, Witchlings, is powerful magic. So that's your challenge this week. Acknowledge your ancestors in whatever way feels true. One candle, one thank you, one memory, one moment, one thread of connection. That is all it takes to begin. My witchlings, as we prepare to open our circle tonight, I want to bring everything that we have explored back home, to the heart, to the spirit, to the lineage that walks with each of us, whether we're conscious of it or not. Ancestor work is tender. It's messy. It's beautiful. It stretches across yoga philosophy, witchcraft tradition, cultural memory, intergenerational healing, and the very human desire to understand who we are and where we've come from. Tonight, you've walked through all of that, the types of ancestors, why this work matters, and how to begin weaving it into your own life. And now we close not with instruction, but with blessing, the way witches bless their circles and yogis honor their practice. This is the seal, the grounding thread, the acknowledgement that what we have opened together tonight matters and deserves to be held with care. Here's your blessing, my witchlings, woven from lineage, heart, magic, and the quiet wisdom of the mat. May the wisdom of your lineage walk beside you, not as a shadow, but as a lantern. May you feel the presence of those who came before you, not in a haunting way, but in a steady, supportive, I've been exactly where you are kind of way. May the strength of those who endured flow into you like a river that never runs dry. Every ancestor survived something, something heavy, something hard, something impossible. That endurance didn't vanish when they passed. It lives in your blood, your bones, your energy body. May you feel that resilience rise in you whenever the world asks you to be braver than you feel. May your heart soften toward your past, toward the parts of your story that hurt, toward the versions of you who had to armor up to survive, toward the ancestors who didn't have the tools, the context, the support, or the freedom to choose differently. Softening isn't forgiveness unless you want it to be. Softening is simply release, a loosening of the grip that old stories hold on your present. May your spirit rise toward your future, bright, open, curious. You are not the end of your lineage. You are a continuation, a turning point, a living ancestor in the making. May your dreams become the ones your descendants will thank you for. May your healing ripple outward in both directions along the timeline. May your present moment be blessed with clarity, grace, and groundedness. May you know what is yours to carry and what is not. May you recognize when you need rest, when you need support, and when you need to step into your power. May you trust your intuition, your body, your practices, yoga and witchcraft alike, to guide you through uncertainty. And because this is our shared cauldron, our shared circle, our pocket of magical community, I want to weave a more personal blessing for you. May you trust your path even when the road bends in directions you didn't expect. You've survived every ending you feared you would not. You've rebuilt yourself more than once. You've walked through seasons of darkness and still kept the spark alive. That spark is ancestral. It is holy. It is yours. May you trust your magic, the subtle kind and the bold kind, the part of you that knows when the energy shifts in a room, the part of you that feels truth in your belly, the part of you that finds wisdom in ritual, movement, breath, moonlight, and intuition. May you trust your body, not because it is perfect, but because it is sacred. Your body is a temple, a cauldron, a lineage-holding vessel. It carries stories older than your memory and power deeper than you have yet discovered. May you feel the earth as your ancestor, steady, ancient, always supportive. May you feel the sky as your reminder that you are part of something vast. May you feel your life as a thread woven into a tapestry bigger than your individual story. May your boundaries be both firm and loving. You are allowed to protect your energy. You are allowed to choose who sits at your table. You are allowed to say no more to generational patterns that end with you. May your intuition sharpen like a blade and soften like a blessing, balanced, clear, aligned with your highest good. May your ancestors of blood, heart, spirit, and humanity be proud of the healing you are doing, because healing is labor, healing is devotion, healing is ancestral activism. You are doing the work that many before you never had the chance, the safety, the language, or the permission to do. You are not breaking cycles. You are redirecting the entire damned river. Now, my witchlings, we close in the way we always do, with the blessing that has become both mantra and magic for our community. Spread love, spread joy, and spread kindness. Not because the world is simple, but because the world so often forgets. We are the ones who remember. And tell your people you love them while they're still here to hear it. Don't wait for perfect moments. Connection is ancestor work. Love spoken aloud is lineage healing this. And hear this from me to you. You are loved. You are wanted. You are needed. Your existence is not an accident. Your story is not disposable. Your magic is not small. Your ancestors, with all their flaws and complexities, are proud that you made it to this moment, that you are living a life more free, more conscious, more intentional than any of them could have imagined. Until next time, my witchlings, Feel the embrace of your lineage. It has been walking with you all along. Namaste, Witchlings.